Chapter 8. An Ancient Rivalry. Simon and the others passed through the door to the fifth trial, which opened to a long tunnel with a light at the end of it. After the group reached this light, they found themselves in the courtyard of a great castle. 5 people were there to meet them. 4 of them were wearing masks that covered the entirety of their face. The fifth, the face of the fifth, was just barely visible under the hood of the black robe he was wearing. From the left side of his forehead to the right side of his mouth was a deep scar on his also disfigured face. His irises were a red color that was the shade of blood. Though he was smiling, there was also an air of contempt in his facial expression. "Welcome, friends," he said to Simon's group. "We are so glad that all have made it this far. That means that we have been granted the opportunity to destroy you ourselves. So you have our thanks."
Simon, who is this man?
Jade asked him. "You mean to tell me that you never talk to your friends about me, Simon?" the hooded figure asked playfully. "Pity. I thought I meant more to you than that. Then again, we did not meet in this timeline, so you may have forgotten me as well. Allow me to make introductions before we begin. My friends are known as the Dream Killers for their ability to destroy the part of a person's mind that allows them to use their imagination and dream dreams. I am their master, the one feared across all the multiverse. I am Lord Galacticus. So we won't be able to dream or imagine anymore if they have their way? What's so bad about that? Dan asked. It may not seem like that big a deal for people like you, who are from Earth, where a person can carry on without the ability to dream. However, in Agravania and its associated realms, the ability to imagine and dream allows one to summon the tools necessary to protect themselves. Basically, the Dream Killers make defenseless those who choose as targets, by destroying that which allows them to imagine such tools in the first place, James explained. He is correct, but I shall take it one step further. After my Dream Killers do what they do best, and my enemies realize, with utmost despair, that they are powerless against me, I finally put them out of their misery by killing them, Galacticus told them. So what is this trial exactly? I don't see any sort of weapon in your hand. How shall we settle this? Simon asked. Why, with a wizard battle, of course. Not with spells, not with spell cards like in that silly video game trial you surpassed in the trial before last, but with wands and actual spells and curses. One where there are curses that are designed to kill a person, Galacticus replied. One last thing before we begin. Do you recognize where we are? Simon and the others surveyed their surroundings. The castle of which this courtyard was a part was remarkably familiar to Simon. For a few minutes, he pondered where he had seen this place before. Suddenly, he saw flashes of memory of him attending school here. He then recalled that this was the school that he and his friends in his stories had attended. This is the school I attended in the stories I wrote when I was in my real school, Simon told them. Precisely. Did you know that I also attended this school? You probably never saw me while you were here, since I am 3 years your senior, and I tended to keep to myself out of shamefulness. Of course, while at school, I was known by a different name, one that I shed to become the person you see before you now. Enough conversation. Let us begin, Galacticus said, and he fired off a curse in Simon's group's direction. The group scattered and Galacticus' dream killers pursued them. What are we going to do? How do we even fight them? Asked Harold panically. We fire our own spells back at them, James replied as he pulled a wand from his pocket. I hope you guys kept your wands from your bikes. Simon and the others drew their wands and began to fire defensive and disarming spells at Galacticus and his dream killers. Do not touch Simon Petrus! He is mine to kill! And mine alone! Galacticus commanded. The courtyard in which the two sides fought was falling to ruin as the two sides fought. People on both sides began to use fallen chunks of brick as cover from enemy spells. For a period, neither side was successful in reducing the other side's number. Eventually, James's aim was true, and his spell hit one of the dream killers squarely in the chest, which caused him to disappear in a cloud of dust. When this happened, Galacticus' side began to fire curses with higher frequency and fervency. Then it was not much longer before Jaday's spell hit one of Galacticus' number, and the same thing happened to them. Shortly after, Harold did the same, and finally, so did Dan. It is now down to the battle between Simon and Galacticus. His determination to kill Simon was very plain on his face. Simon's friends came over to aid him against Galacticus, but he waved them off. No, don't get involved. This battle is between me and him, he told them. What have I done to make you hate? What have I done to you that makes me hate you so? You mean aside from my horribly disfigured face? He asked angrily. Fine, I will tell you before you die. That way you die knowing the manner in which you wronged me. In my timeline, where we do meet, we play a trading card game that I taught you, and you somehow beat me in that card game. I was so angry because I was about to become a pro, and if anyone found out I lost, I felt my career would have been over before it began. So, we got into a magical skirmish of high stakes, much like the one we are in now. Your childhood friend, whose name now escapes me, was caught in the crossfire. But, somehow, you reflected some of that blast back at me, which was what caused my face to look as it does now. Initially, I was not so bothered about the disfigurement, but then bullies began to pick on me and beat me up for it. Not only that, but no one also ever wanted to be near me. Upon seeing my face, people would either gasp in horror or run the other way as fast as they could. I always had to do group projects by myself, and no one wanted to be my friend. I was so alone, and no one cared. I realized that, if it were not for you, I might have had a normal life with friends. After realizing this, I began my quest to become the most feared person in the multiverse. My first victims, as Galacticus, were those bullies who beat me and made fun of me. I'm sorry that you suffered so much because of that incident. If only I could go back and do things differently, then maybe you would not have suffered, Simon said sorrowfully. Maybe if you had had a real friend, you wouldn't have gone down this dark path. I do have another question, though, if you don't mind. As I recall, you ceased to be when the version of me in that timeline defeated you with the Sword of Unity. So how did you come to be a part of this calamity? The one in charge of all this has powers even I cannot comprehend. In the millisecond before that happened, he took me outside of the timeline, brought me before him, and requested my assistance. I asked him what he would give me in return, and he promised me the revenge I craved, Galacticus replied. Who is this person? Simon asked Galacticus. You would not believe it if I told you. As you are about to die, it would be pointless now to tell you who it is, said Galacticus. After that, the final battle between the two of them recommenced, with neither side giving any quarter. Spells flew back and forth between the two of them. For a while, it was hard to tell which of them would win. Then, Galacticus fired a curse that disintegrated Simon's wand, and Simon was knocked off his feet. His body was weary from the battle, and he struggled to get up on all fours. John, Simon panted. Even now, it is not too late to turn back. We could still be friends. All you have to do is put down that wand and take my hand. I am truly sorry for what you suffered. I am not saying this because you have me at your mercy. I say this because you deserve to have friends as much as anyone. Please, take my hand in friendship, and let us move forward beyond our differences. In the time since that fateful day we first met, I have become bitter about the whole idea of having friends. All I need is my power, and my dream killers to back me up. Farewell, Simon Petrus. Perhaps things will be better for us in the next life, Galacticus replied, as he fired a killing curse at Simon. However, James jumped in front of Simon, and the curse rebounded off of his armor and hit Galacticus, who had a look of shock and incredulity on his face as it hit him. He then flew backwards into the wall behind him and crumpled to the ground dead. Shortly after, his body disintegrated into dust. The group stood there, shocked at what had just happened. James, how are you still alive after that curse hit you? Or rather, rebounded off of you? Simon asked him. This is magic resistant armor, which means that certain types of magic cannot penetrate it, and is ultimately reflected back at the caster, James explained. After that, the surroundings faded away, and the group was in a room that had two unmarked doors. What is the meaning of this? Simon asked.
I am giving you a choice of which path to take, similar to the choice you had to make in the unintended trial before. Spoke the
Spoke the voice of the hooded figure that appeared on the monitor in the third trial.
One of these doors leads to the sixth trial. The other will lead you to an unexpected demise, or to the rest of your friends, depending on your capabilities. Consider this a reward for making it this far. However, you can only choose one door. Remember, time is of the essence.
What should we do?
Today asked. Well, we need to keep pressing onward, but we also need to make sure the others are all right. It might be best to split our forces, James replied, scratching his chin in thought. Though we can only open one door. What if we open both at the same time? So the mechanism thinks we only opened one, suggested Harold. That's a good idea, but how should we split the group? James asked the group. Well, Simon should be one of the ones to press onward, since this involves him in the first place. And James, you seem to know a lot more about what's going on than any of us. So, you should go with him. The rest of us should go look for the others, Dan suggested. Makes sense. The only issue is that we don't know which door is which, said Simon. Well, I guess we'll just have to each pick a door and leave it in God's hands. James put his hand on the handle of the left door, and Dan put his hand on the same for the right door. Both were waiting for the moment to open the doors simultaneously. On the count of 3, James commanded. 1, 2, 3! In the exact same instance, both Dan and James turned their door handles and both opened. Meanwhile, in the room where the hooded figure behind everything waited for Simon and his friends, he sensed what they had done.
Well done, friends.
He chuckled.
Your determination and ingenuity once again exceed my expectations. Let us see if it continues to be favorable to you. Asia, I want you to go and meet Simon's friends. Do not let them meet up with the others under any circumstances.
Yes, sir.
Asia said as she left.
I cannot allow Simon Petrus to feel any hope in these circumstances. In the end, hope leads to despair if it is unfulfilled, and, ultimately, leads to suffering. As long as hope exists, there is always the possibility for despair and suffering. I shall at least spare him of that much. Also, I sense that one of my underlings is now acting out of his own will, not taking into consideration the negative consequences that his actions could have on our operation.
He said to himself. Meanwhile, in the waiting room, where the hooded figure had been holding Simon's friends, Dave, Jenna, and Anthony were beginning to become anxious. What the hell is going on? Dave asked angrily. Why haven't we been summoned yet? Why did he keep us prisoner? A monitor showing the hooded figure appeared on the wall in front of them. Are you the mastermind behind this? Dave asked him.
Yes, I am. As to whether you are being held prisoner here, that is not the case. You were put here for your own safety, until such a time that your role in this shall be fulfilled. You are free to leave at any time at your own risk.
The figure said as the door swung open.
However, I should warn you that one of my underlings has decided to take matters into his own hands. It is now outside of my control.
I think we can handle ourselves, Dave replied. Right, you guys? Right, Anthony and Jenna both responded as they nodded.
Suit yourselves. But you were warned.
The figure replied, and then the monitor vanished. The three of them then left the room to try to find the others.